Hello and welcome to an episode of the Maxi-Geek Show. I do apologise for the delayed start, just having a few technical issues and giving me some grief, which, is always fun. So, yeah, we're gonna get into it this week. There's a host of news. Obviously, if you've seen the title, I'm poking fun at the news. There's been a bit earlier in the week, but today there was a couple of showcases to the point where we haven't even posted all the news yet because it gets exhausting doing it story after story. So we're going to get into it. However, before we do, we will just preference the start of the show by saying that we're not going to focus a lot on everything, purely because there was so much of it today, but we will get through everything that we can in a pretty decent time frame. Okay, with that being said, let's get into it, and the first thing we're going to talk about is the new MacBook Air. So earlier this week, Apple hosted their not mid-year show, but they hosted their press event, the showcase event for the developers conference, the worldwide developers conference that Apple hosts this time every year. In years past, we've seen them announce they tend to focus on more software than anything. So this is where iOS and Mac operating system updates get shown off. So this year we did get the new Mac OS Ventura, and the iOS 16 has been announced as well. And things like, there's Apple Pay Later, which is basically Afterpay, but through Apple. What was the other thing that was cool? There's a lot. They're doing a lot of stuff. So it's all in there. But one of the things they also announced was that the MacBook Air is getting a refresh. And this time it's using the Apple Silicon, the M2 chip. Now, you won't have heard of the M2 chip before because this is the first product to use it. In past products, so the iPad Pro 5th generation, the MacBook Pro, the Mac desktop, the Mac Mini desktop, I should say, and a few other devices, they've been using the M1 chip. So the M1 is Apple's in-house designed CPU. So they're basically no longer using anything from Intel like they had been for a number of years. Which was perfect because developers could make things for a Windows computer and then bring it across to the Mac without any issue, because they're still using the same cores, same Intel CPUs. Now, however, it's slightly different, so there are some limitations. However, the big thing with the new MacBook Air, apart from the fact that it comes with the M2, is that it does support now MagSafe. I know this is something that a lot of people got excited for. So the MagSafe charger is back. It wasn't around for a while. They were just saying USB-C or Thunderbolt port was all you needed. But yeah, they're bringing it back here, as you can see. And, there are 2 Thunderbolt ports. The interesting thing with this one is the price. So the basic, MacBook Air powered by M2 is $1,900, and it goes up from there depending on what you're getting. As you can see, though, they've really made a very narrow bezel on the side of the screen, so the screen is slightly larger than it has been in years past, but the dimensions of the laptop haven't actually grown. So yeah, it's one of those things where it is very cool where they've got it. They're obviously not getting into a lot of details because they don't need to do that. But yeah, it is, as I said, it is very cool. They did talk about a few other things around the place, but again, that's all software side of it. There's no hardware. There's no new iPhone announced. No new iPad or anything like that. But it is interesting that they're still promoting the Air line of devices alongside their other options. Moving on to things that got updates this week. Battlefield 2042. So Battlefield 2042 got a big update in the 0 Hour campaign, or the Season 1 release. So there are 2 halves to this release. The first is that the Season 1 is one update, and then there was a massive patch as well that did a whole lot of other things. So in terms of the patch, which is available to everyone as well, there's no issues there. One of the things that it did is it's adding in some new lines for the specialists, some new dialogue options, slightly tweaking some of the animations to make them more unique, more varied, and the audio will do things like allow them to be, to highlight the type of character that they are, and if they say they're a Polish person, they'll have more of a Polish accent. If they're American, well, most of them sound American anyway, but that's the point. So they're trying to make the specialists feel more unique and diverse. Obviously, 0 Hour, though, is the Season 1 update, and the Season 1 update does come with a lot of things. So the first thing it comes with is a new map called Exposure. You can see a couple of shots here of Exposure. Exposure is a facility set in the Canadian Rockies, where it was a research facility. It had some seismic activity in the area, which caused a portion of the rock face to collapse, exposing the facility. The Russians have, determined, hey, this is here, let's go and get it. And, the US forces are saying, no, let's protect this thing. One of the big things about this one is it is very, very, very vertical. So there are massive differences in levels. So the very top level is about three levels above the very bottom level, the ground. So there's a lot of verticality in this map. Also, as part of it, it does bring in some new helicopters, which they call the stealth copters. There is a new crossbow that has an explosive tip on the end, which is perfect for taking down, armored vehicles. It's not a one-hit kill, but it does do some significant damage. And that pairs along well with Liz, who's the new specialist for the season pass. So she has an ability to basically highlight all damaged vehicles within a set radius. So no matter sort of what they're behind, you'll be able to see them, and the more damage that they have, the more visible they'll be, which is perfect if you want to take out some tanks and things like that. It is very interesting. I won't play the trailer because it is a very big and explosive trailer. There's a lot of things. It is Battlefield, so it's kind of what we expect from it. But it is interesting that they're doing. They're still supporting it. As last week they officially dropped support for Hazard Zone, which is a little sad. It's not unexpected, but as I said, it's just a little sad that they've done it that way, because the Hazard Zone experience was quite unique. The only real downside, as I said, though, is with Hazard Zone not being actively developed anymore, they should be focusing on the season pass. However, there's reports, rumors, depending on how you want to look at it, coming out where they're saying that the season pass is basically just going to be running on a skeleton crew. So it's going to deliver everything that they need, and then they'll move on. I don't know if that's the case. DICE fumbled the launch with Star Wars Battlefront 2 with their entire loot box debacle. So, they took the time and they corrected that. And they made significant investment into fixing the game, and people loved it. People, are still playing it today. So they definitely have the potential to, correct the course of things. We just have to wait and see if that's what they're going to be doing, as sort of time goes on. Speaking of time, Australia has finally caught up to America with regards to Xbox. Specifically, the Xbox Design Lab is now available in Australia as of today. So, if you're unsure what Xbox Design Lab is, it is basically a customization program where you can select, various facets of an Xbox controller, and then they'll make it for you and send it off. So this isn't that you pay some guy $50 on Etsy and he'll, you send him a controller and he'll paint it for you. These are, the parts are made in the same factory as the regular, in-store parts. They're assembled by the same people that make those controllers, so it's all done in the same location. It's just you have more choice over colors. One of the big things is, as part of this launch, they've got a few new color options and patterns. So they've got a couple of camos And they've got these new pastel colors. So this is the pastel purple, and this is sort of a rich purple. Now, you don't have to have it this way. You could have the purple front and say the orange camo backs, right? Or you can see with this one, it's not the orange camo, but they've got the textured grips. And there are multiple ways that they can go and wrap around the controller. You can see that the D-pad is different on all of them. So the triggers are different. The trigger here matches the D-pad. It's a metallic paint instead of the regular color. Or you can have a more matte finish. So Xbox were very kind enough to invite me to take part in the program a while ago. So I've been sitting on this news for a while, and as such I did design my own custom Xbox controller. As you can see here, I went with sort of a straight pure yellow with the black rubber grips on the back, and it wraps around to the inside there. Just a standard yellow D-pad controller. So I actually can scroll up and I can show you here. So I actually went for the inverse of the buttons. So on all the other controllers, the buttons are black, and then the letters are the colors. So the A is green, not the actual button, but the actual letter. They had a few options. You can make them sort of black with grey things, which is what you could sort of match the inners as well. I didn't really want that. I wanted something a little different, so I went with the vibrant there. It is very cool that it's now here. The interesting element is that they are not more expensive. So the controllers themselves are $100, which is the same as the special branded controllers that we get in stores. So the Forza Horizon 5 controller from last year, the Halo controller, the electric yellow, the fire red, what do they call it? Pulse red, I think they call it. So anything that's not the black or white, those are $90. The coloured ones, or the ones with colouring, or the special editions, they are $100. So it is the same price. If you add the rubber grips, you can actually, as I said, you can get them on the two parts. There's the back, and then there's the inner. And if you get them on either one of those, it's another $8 per part. So you can get just the back itself and not the inside back, or you can get the inside back and not the outside. But yeah, so you're looking at about another $15 to have those two added. And as I said, so the special paints, so they're like the really sort of fancy colors, do cost a little bit extra. And you can actually get them engraved. You can have your name or your gamer tag put on the controller as well. So if you're looking to buy your gamer friend or partner a controller for themselves, you can do that with this, and you're not actually going to lose out on just buying a generic controller for them, because the offerings are literally exactly what you would expect, because it's the same controller you get in the shop. You just get to choose all the colorings yourself. In terms of shipping times, that's anything I can't really comment on. As I said, I was able to buy this stuff, I was able to do this a month before the program was announced. It took about a week for it to get here. Whether or not that's standard or something else, I can't say, because they could have had 100,000 orders go in today, and it may take a bit of time because of that. The good thing is, if you do order one of those controllers, starting on June 30th, you'll be able to use them on your Samsung TV. So Samsung and Xbox have teamed up to bring the Xbox Cloud Gaming app to selected Samsung TVs and monitors. So starting June 30th, the Neo QLED 8Ks, the Neo QLED 4Ks, the QLEDs, and the 2022 Smart Monitor series will come enabled with the Xbox app. So what this means is that if you buy a new Samsung TV later this year, in say the Boxing Day sales, it could have the Xbox app on it. And as long as you have a compatible controller, you can game on your TV without the need of a box, without the need of the Apple TV or connecting your computer to do it via the web browser. None of that. You can just do it straight off the TV. Obviously, this is cloud gaming, so your internet connection will be critical. Unfortunately, Microsoft have not launched any servers other than the east coast of Australia. There's 4 data centers on the east coast. There's none over in, say, Western Australia. So if you do live over in Western Australia, your mileage on this cloud gaming service will vary quite a bit, because they are something of not a luxury over there, but if you don't get a great connection, you're not going to have a great time. What is interesting is that it's not just Xbox that are doing it. Samsung are also bringing in NVIDIA GeForce Now. I think Stadia was another one they're bringing in. So there's a few options around for them. But Xbox is the big one, and Xbox and Samsung have been sort of quite close for a number of years now. They tend to use Samsung in all their displays when they set up for events. So it isn't massive news. Obviously, if you're not buying a TV this year, or you're not buying a Samsung TV this year, you're probably not that interested in it. But they are doing a few things with the game mode essentially on the TV, so it will be optimized for the Xbox, so it'll be hopefully lower latency and a faster turnaround time. But yeah, that is very, very cool stuff. So while we're still on Xbox, because why not, on Monday morning here in Australia, the Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase will be taking place. It starts at 3 AM and is expected to go for at least 90 minutes. What is happening though is later in the week, on 3 AM later in the week, on June 15th, so basically next Thursday, there will be the Xbox Games Showcase Extended. So this is essentially, they did it last year. They had the Xbox and Bethesda Showcase. That was great, packed with games. And then a few days later, they hosted the extended version of it. Now, this isn't the same thing with, like a director's cut trailer or anything like that. This is literally just, they'll take 10 titles from the showcase and they'll have developers sit down and talk about them, for 5 or 10 minutes per title. So it's basically saying, hey, you saw the trailer the other day. Now we've got the developers here to give you more information. This is akin to what Nintendo do, or have done in the past, I should say, with their E3 presentations. They'll host, the 30 or 45 minute direct, where they, throw everything, but then occasionally they throw up down the bottom corner of the screen. It'll say, in Treehouse Live, and then after the direct is done, they switch to the Treehouse Live show, and it runs for like 6 hours across 2 days, and, they actually deep dive into all these games. So it isn't anything that special in terms of that, but it is great to see that, they are offering more things across the board for people who want to watch. As I said, though, it is going to be an early one at a staggering 3 AM. But that's what we're doing for the Xbox showcase on Monday anyway. Moving off Xbox, somewhat, and moving into the world of Formula 1, we have the first gameplay trailer for F1 Manager 2022. So this is not to be confused with F1 22, which is coming on July 1st from EA and Codemasters. F1 Manager 2022 is, as you would expect by the name, a manager game based around Formula 1. So we actually got the trailer, and I will play that here. Now, what is interesting about this trailer is it does show off a lot of racing. So it isn't you just staring at, fake versions of Excel spreadsheets, for 20 hours as you played this game. You'll have to make the decisions and manage all the aspects leading into the race, but then while the race is happening, you have to continually manage things as well. So if the tyres look worn down, you can make the call that the driver has to come in, right? You can see here they're looking at time of day, when they need to come in for fuel, when they need to come in for an extra a break or something. So there's all these extra little things that you don't have to worry about when you're playing the F1 racing games, but you can do it here. So you can see they're talking about the design of the car. So shaping the car, raising the rear foil up, tilting it a little bit to prevent to provide more drag, things like that. When you're actually watching the races, the commentators will be folks, his name's down here, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. David Croft, who's the broadcaster for Sky Racing out of the UK. and Formula One driver, or former Formula One driver, Karen Chandok. They're both doing the commentary for the game. So it will be an authentic race day experience as you're watching it, but you can't just lose yourself in the actual event. You have to actually still keep on track of things. So it is very, very cool. Again, more so because it's something very different for the F1 series. We've had F1 games since the Super Nintendos when I first started playing them. So the fact that we have more of them now is pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know. Moving on though, during the week we had many of the Netflix Geek Week streams. One of them was dedicated to Stranger Things, if that's your thing, but another one was dedicated to anime, and that is where we got our first look at Cyberpunk Edgerunners. Now, Cyberpunk Edgerunners is based off the Cyberpunk 2077, game series. It is set apart from that, so it is set in the same world, so the same sort of technology exists. But Johnny Silverhand is not going to pop up in this. V is not going to pop up in this. None of the characters. Well, sorry, none of the recurring characters from the main game are popping up in this. You might hear mention of Hanako Osaka or things like that. The leaders of the corporations, but that's about it. Now, this is actually being done by Studio Trigger. Studio Trigger popped up last year in Star Wars Visions. They did 2 of those, unique takes on Star Wars. But over the years, the studio itself has created Kill la Kill, Darling in the Franxx, and the little short and then somewhat series Little Witch Academia. The actual director of the show is Hiroyuki Imaishi, who directed Kill la Kill and even Gurren Lagann back in the day. So there's definitely some big pedigree behind this. And as you're watching it, it is, they're not holding back on anything. They are going full throttle with all the style and blood. There is actually an additional clip that I will not play because it is very, very violent. So just be aware of that. But what they also did, provide was basically a developer chit chat between, the folks at CD Projekt Red who provided all the information to Studio Trigger, and then the folks at Studio Trigger who made the actual series. It does look very, very cool. That is due to hit screens via Netflix this September. There's no exact release date yet, but that is when it is expected. That's when Netflix have said it's coming out. We just don't know exactly when at this point. All right, moving on to the stuff from today. So today there was actually four showcases. So first thing this morning at 2 a.m. or 2:30 a.m. there was the Upload VR showcase, which we haven't posted anything about that. We'll be doing that tomorrow. Then we had the Summer Game Fest showcase from Jeff Keighley, which I'll be honest, I'll say it now, it was a dud. He kept hyping it, and then like 2 days ago he goes, "Oh, everyone temper your expectations, rah rah rah." So he built up the hype himself and then told everyone to calm it when they got too hyped. There was a lot of cool stuff in there, but it wasn't what everyone was expecting, I suppose. After that, when it finished, we rolled straight into Day of the Devs, which is a showcase that is hosted by Double Fine Productions, and this is the 10th year they've been doing it. And it is basically, developers can submit their games to this, and then the team at IM8-Bit and Double Fine will go through them, look at all the presentations, and pick the ones that they think are great, and they'll vote on them. So what they do is they'll actually, curate a list, and then they reach back out to the folks who said, hey, we want to talk about a game. And once they have done that, they will then bring them in and, let them record and talk about their game. Some of the presentations are very basic. There was one guy just holding up bits of paper with information on it. And then some, they get very, very into it. About an hour after that finished, we had the Devolver Digital Countdown to Marketing Countdown, or whatever in the world they called it this year. Their Devolver Direct. And in that there were 5 games. One of them was already out, but we also got the reveal of 2 more. One was a re-reveal, and then we also got a release date for another one. So there was a lot packed into like what was essentially 7 hours of the day. So we will get into that, and then we'll keep going. So the first thing we're going to talk about is we got our first look at Street Fighter 6. Now, I say first look, I should have clarified. This is the first gameplay of the series. So in the state of play last week, we got the sort of overview trailer, which showcased, hey, there's like an RPG mode where you can explore the city. There's the fighting mode, which is more traditional fighting, and then there's the online hub where you can hang out and rah. This time we got the new character, we got confirmation that Guile is returning. So got the actual proper gameplay of him fighting. So we did see some fighting in the original reveal trailer last week, but it was very much cut up in a way that we didn't get to see a lot of it, without more than like 2 or 3 seconds at a time. So this one is actually pretty focused on the combat. What was funny though is he still has the same haircut, but he's got a goatee. It's like, if you're gonna take the time to redesign the character, you could have done something with the hair. And I know it's an iconic hairstyle, but this would have been perfect for a chance to get rid of it. But yeah, I don't know, it looks cool. Everything's got sort of that, the painted effect, which goes very well with the the sort of street art logo that we saw at the front with the Capcom and Street Fighter. So it looks cool. It is coming, as said last week, it's coming in 2023 to PS4, PS5, PC, and Xbox Series X. Still no Xbox One or Switch or anything like that, but it is what it is. It does look very, very cool, but it's, we have to wait a little bit longer on that one. Also, this morning we got our first look at the gameplay of Call of Duty Modern Warfare. So much like last year when we had Call of Duty Vanguard at Gamescom, we got a nice 7-minute stretch of gameplay from there. We also have that for here. Obviously the difference is this one is set in the modern day, whereas Vanguard was World War II themed. Here we go, we're going into the character in question. This is us, this is the player. I will say this game does look spectacular. They sort of hit the ground running originally with the Modern Warfare reboot a couple of years ago, Infinity Ward, and they've gone even further above this year. We obviously won't watch the entire thing because it does go for some 7.5 minutes, but what is interesting is the world itself is very dynamic. So not in terms of the guy that's running through the door or anything like that, but the actual world itself. So we saw them arriving on a boat downstairs, down at sea level. When you're on the ocean, the boats will react to the waves. So the waves can, push you off course. So you have to keep, adjusting for that. When you're, on the ship later in the level, the waves will actually rock the ship from side to side. And as the ship rocks, the shipping containers will slide around, back and forth. Sometimes they'll push cover in front of you, sometimes they'll take the cover away, but the same will happen to the enemies. So, as you're moving around, you have to be constantly aware of the world in this game because of that whole, everything sort of changing based on how things play out. Taking out a guy on a crapper, it's just not on. Yeah, as I said, it does look very, very cool. We will have to, I'll share the story here link in the chat, so you can check that out if you want to see it in full. They still haven't talked about any of the multiplayer or Warzone. They have confirmed that they're coming, obviously, but they're not gone into detail, and it makes sense not to. There's no reason to talk about those because, let's face it, they're not going to be majorly different from last year or the year before or the year before or the year before. So yeah, in terms of campaigns, that's all I really care about for Call of Duty. I'm never one for the multiplayer. It has never appealed to me. It's never going to appeal to me. But I do like the campaigns. And over the past couple of years, I haven't been that impressed with the ones that have been offered. So hopefully this changes that and makes it something interesting. Speaking of interesting, we also got a new look at Marvel's Midnight Suns from 2K. So this is one, it was supposed to be out back in March, but they delayed it last year to say, hey, we need more time. As part of the news today with the new trailer, we got a confirmation of the release date is now October 7, and that is for PC, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. The game is also coming to Switch, but as is a pretty familiar pattern, the Switch version is not dated yet. So what that means is that the Switch version is coming later in the year, we just don't know when. So we did get a new trailer for this one, and you can see here just in the thumbnail that is Hulk. So we know in the trailer we saw Venom, Hulk, Scarlet Witch, and somebody else. Can't think of them off the top of my head. They get taken over by Lilith, who's the baddie in the game, and then when they're taken over, they become what is known as Fallen. With that, they get all basically the powers of their regular selves, but then they also get some demonic boosts as well. We also got confirmation that Spider-Man will be a playable character in the game. So if you're looking for someone, to play as that is a little different from, say Iron Man, Spider-Man might be the go. Obviously, your main character is going to be the Hunter, who is a completely original character for the Marvel Universe. This character has never appeared in a comic, they've never appeared in a cartoon animation, they've never appeared in the MCU, and the thing is, the version of the character that you have in your game will never appear anywhere else, because the Hunter is a completely customizable character. So this is what makes this interesting, is that the Hunter is the character you design. So the stats, the looks, the outfits and all that is you. But they will fit into the storyline that's being told by the game. Now, the generic look for the Hunter may appear in comics, as part of sort of this universe they're building, or they may not. We don't know. But just the version that you make will be your version of the Hunter. It does look very, very cool. I'm still not entirely sold on it yet, just because it's a tactical RPG. And, Firaxis, who are developing it, they do XCOM, they do Civilization, they know their strategies, they know their tactics very well. But I don't know how well that'll translate into, an action game, so to speak. As this is a 2K game, they have unnecessarily complicated the release availability of it. So there are 4 ways to get the game, depending on the platform you're on. So if you're on PC, you can get it via the Standard Edition, the Digital Plus Edition, which is a digital-only release, or the Legendary Edition. The difference between them is the Standard is just the game. The Digital Plus is the game and 11 premium cosmetic skins. That's it. That's just some skins. And the Legendary Edition is, the game, 23 premium cosmetic skins, and the Season Pass. So you'll get a whole bunch of years worth of content as well post-release. Now, if you're on consoles, this is where it gets trickier. If you're on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, you can get either the Standard Edition, which again is just the game, or you can get the Digital Plus Edition, which grants you access to the game of your, on your platform of choice there. The Digital Plus is the one that provides dual access. It is very weird. Obviously, we've seen a lot of tactical games set with Marvel before, but this one seems to be less tactical. Like it's not as methodical. It's more about building up the cards and all that sort of stuff. They've done dev diaries about it already, but I'm just not convinced on it. I'm not convinced on it until I go hands on. But yeah, so Xbox One and PlayStation 4 are just going to get the standard edition or the Digital Plus edition. But if you get the Digital Plus edition and you have a PlayStation 4, you also get the PlayStation 5 edition of the game. Alright. If you have a PlayStation 5, you don't have a PlayStation 4, you can get either the Enhanced edition, which is the next generation version, or the Digital Plus or the Legendary. So, again, 2K just unnecessarily complicating this because they can. The Digital Plus is literally only a digital release, that's why it's in the name. And apart from the game, on whichever platform you happen to have, it just comes with 11 skins. Now, again, they call them premium cosmetic skins, not just cosmetic skins or skins. So this may be the only way to get these particular skins. We don't know. And again, the Legendary comes with the base game, 23 skins, and the Season Pass for all platforms. Switch is not included in this yet because they've not dated when Switch is coming. And generally speaking, Switch doesn't get all the bonus stuff that the others do, or it hasn't happened in the past. But yeah, it could be very cool. I'm cautious about it, but I'm hoping to be proven wrong. Speaking about being proven wrong, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge got a release date. So I'm just going to leave it up here for a moment just so we can all enjoy this wonderful artwork that has the 4 turtles, well, 3 turtles and Mikey's arm, Casey Jones, April O'Neil, and Splinter versing off against Baxter Stockman. I'll be honest, the crocodile guy, I can't think of his name. Shredder, Krang is there, and there's somebody hiding up in the background. What is interesting about this is this game is out next week. It is out on June 16th, so literally less than a week to go until this game releases. When it does release, it will launch for Switch, PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. Yes, I rotate the music through, so we've got some music to listen to when I'm not talking. The interesting thing about TMNT Shredder's Revenge is that it is launching in a Game Pass next week. So if you do want the game but you don't, have the money, it's $37.50 here normally, but there is a 10% discount at the moment. PlayStation owners can only get the discount if they are PlayStation Plus members. Maybe you did leave your 3DS on tabs, who knows? What was interesting about the showcase today is they confirmed the inclusion of Casey Jones, making for 7 playable characters, but they also confirmed that the game will now support 6 players locally and online. So the 6 players means you can have all 4 turtles, and as you can see here in the screenshot, Splinter and Casey Jones, getting into it with Bebop there. So, it looks very, very cool. As I said, Casey Jones is the newest addition to the gang. But yeah, it just, we didn't know this game had a release date, planned, because they just kept saying 2022. Now, limited run games do have, let me bring it up while I'm talking. Limited run games are doing a physical release for it. They are doing it in 3 flavors. I say flavors, but like 3 different things. Let's ignore the Bill and Ted thing. Where is it? Oh, it's probably in their thing. So there it is. So there is the standard release, which is just the game. There is the classic release, and there is what they call the Radical Edition. So the standard release is literally just the standard release. There's nothing fancy about it. This one here, so the Revenge Classic Edition, the Classic Edition, it comes in what is basically themed to be a VHS tape container, and with it you get the game. So limited run are helping produce the collection, but it's not a limited series. So limited run have 2 things. They do their limited runs, which, there's 1,000 copies they'll make of it, and then they do the distribution series. And the distribution series are ones where they pop up in regular retailers like EB Games, or you can go to Amazon and buy them direct from, say, limited run games and save a bit on shipping. So we may see a version of this here. It probably will not include the free personal pan pizza from Pizza Hut, which, if you're not old like me, this won't make sense, but there was a period where the Turtle movies were big, and everyone was sort of getting in on the hype, and obviously because the Turtles love pizza, local pizza companies were getting in on that as well. In the US, they teamed up with Pizza Hut to give away a free pizza, with the game. The other edition of the game, which looks very, very cool, is what they call the basically the ultimate. So it comes with one of these 3D stills, which basically like layered, parts of the scenery inside of a box frame. We get a copy of the soundtrack. We get some stickers. The VHS container for it, strategy guide, some postcards, an exclusive Shredder action figure that is not been made anywhere else. So it's not been made before, and it's not going to be released anywhere else. It is exclusive to this, and a replica arcade cabinet. Now, the arcade cabinet, this is the very important thing here. It does not play the game. The arcade cabinet is just a replica. It's a little mini cabinet, and it just does sound effects, right? And it'll play the trailer for the game, and that's it. So it is not a full. It's not a working. Yeah, so TMNT, they had, not Secret of the Use, but you could get the green sauce on pizzas from Pizza Hut for quite a while. I don't know if they're still doing it, but, they was there for quite a long time. Obviously, you get a steelbook as well. But yeah, so it is interesting. This one here, it's $200. So it is a very, very expensive collector's edition. Putting it into context, this is more expensive than the Monkey Island Anthology Collection. Right, so this is one game, and it is more expensive than 5 games. It is interesting. As I said, it is there. They're doing it for Switch, PS4, and Xbox. That's pretty much it. And then obviously PC. I didn't see that down the bottom there. But yeah, I think it's very, very cool. Oh, sorry, you're talking about supplement products. I thought you were talking about Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut had green ooze they were putting on pizzas for a while there. So that's what I thought you were talking about. I don't want to know what TMNT supplements would be like. But yeah, so next week for that one. It's also the same day that Neon White is coming to PC and Switch, which is very, very interesting. Also officially announced today was Capcom Arcade Second Stadium. Now, in terms of names, this is just backwards. It shouldn't be called that. I don't know why they just didn't call it Capcom Arcade Stadium 2, but its full and official title is Capcom Arcade Second Stadium, because why not? Now, this is going to release exactly like the first one did, so you can get the main application on its own, and you'll get one game for free as part of that. And then you can buy the games piecemeal, or you can buy bundles to get a bit of a discount and get a bunch of games at once. I won't play the trailer, but the full list of games that we get is... So Son is the one that is free and is included. Savage Bees, again, Sumaku, the Speed Rumbler, Hyperdyne Sidearms, and blah blah blah. The original Street Fighter is in there. Street Fighter Alpha Warrior's Dreams, and there was Street Fighter Fighter Alpha 2, Super Puzzle Fighter Turbo 2, and Street Fighter Alpha 3. That was what I was looking for. So basically, this one is including a lot of games that Switch already has, because we've got them in various other Capcom collections. But the one that most people don't realize is coming is Mega Man, the Power Fighters 2. So this is, it's another Mega Man game that most people don't even know exists. So the fact that it is being included in this one is very, very exciting. It's probably more akin to Street Fighter than Mega Man, but it is what it is. So this one doesn't have an exact release date from memory. No, August 5th. There you go. But yeah, so if you pre-order it, you'll get some extra DLC that'll give you some fancy banners to go around it. But other than that, it's just more, more games. Like, I still love that most people don't even recognize that as Street Fighter. It's not even like Ryu or Ken, it's Player One. So yeah, there you go. If you're a fan of these things, you probably already have most of these games via the arcade classics that we got on Switch, the Street Fighter collection that's on Switch, the 30th anniversary collection of Street Fighter. So there's a bunch of ways to get most of these games already. But yeah, it is cool. From memory, there's something else about it. Yeah. Yeah, it just says players who pre-order, they'll purchase the Capcom Fighting Collection before September 30th will receive 3 Wonders, which packs 3 arcade games into one as a bonus game for Capcom Arcade's second stadium. Honestly, with the number of collections Capcom are making these days, it's very, very hard to keep track of them all. But yeah, as I said, it is interesting that they're doing it that way. I'm not sure that this is what people needed, and I don't think they needed to have a second full release for it. They could have just done it as a new wave of DLC for the other one, especially because that name is just so weird. It just makes no sense whatsoever. But hey, I'm not in marketing. I just review games for a living. Speaking of livings, let's talk about the pirate life, and that is for One Piece Odyssey. So One Piece Odyssey was announced last year as coming. We knew it was coming. We got a couple of bits of random art. Then back in March, we got our first trailer for the game, and a bit of artwork again, sort of showcasing what it's about. But today we got our first actual look at the game in action. So let me just throw this on here, and I'll skip ahead a little bit because I don't care about the character introductions. Oh yeah, he punches his way through a cloud. It's like, clouds are made of water, so they're not exactly hard to punch, but sure. So basically the Straw Hat Pirate Gang, it could be, but the names generally get, confirmed in English, so they had to have given it a weird name. But yeah, with Odyssey, it is a sort of open world RPG. Very, very similar to a lot of other ones that Bandai Namco have produced in recent years. What is kind of interesting is this is actually being done by ILCA, which is the same company that did Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl last year. So the Pokemon remakes that came out last year, this is those guys, the same company. It is due to release sometime this year. We don't actually have a date for it, just 2022. And when it does release, it'll be PS4, PS5, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. No Xbox One, which is a little weird, but, maybe that's just the way these things are going these days. But yeah, I know, someone who's a One Piece fan, they're very, very excited for it. I can take the series or leave it. It doesn't... I'm not chomping at the bit to get hands-on with anything from the game, from the universe, and I'm not worried about watching or the anime or reading the manga because it is what it is. I do appreciate that it's now been going for 25 years, and the creator is still involved. So the creator wrote the story for this one. I won't say he wrote the entire story, but he wrote the bulk of the story, and he's also doing this story for the movie that is coming out too, One Piece Red. So yeah, he's been involved quite a bit, even though the series is now 25 years old. Speaking of being involved, we got a new trailer for Gotham Knights today. So Gotham Knights is the 4-player based game set within an Arkham-style universe. Yeah, so One Piece Odyssey is different because you won't have to know anything about it because it's apart from the main crew, it's an entirely new land with entirely new characters. So you don't have to worry about who this one person is that they all go nuts over. But yeah, so Gotham Knights, we got a new trailer today, and it is focused on Nightwing. So let me come down here and give it a play. So it isn't a big trailer because we got that a couple of weeks ago with the one for Robin and Red Hood. But it basically just gives us a look at Nightwing's movesets. So obviously Nightwing was the original Robin, Dick Grayson. When he sort of grew up, he decided he needed to be his own man, and he left Gotham, went to Bloodhaven, and became Nightwing. So he has still the same basic moves and everything, but just without the red and green leotard-based outfit. Yeah, I mean, I still don't know what to think about this game. It does look very interesting, but at the same time, I didn't really get into Arkham Knight, the third one, because I was kind of done with the whole, I'm just gliding from rooftop to rooftop doing things. So we'll have to see what this one does, in the long run. Obviously, they're using the Court of Owls storyline to make, they're basing this one off. And the actual writer for that storyline is helping out here. So the big storyline is that Bruce Wayne is dead, Batman is gone, and the Nightwing, Robin, Red Hood, and Batgirl all come in to be to fill the void of there being no Batman, because Gotham still needs protecting, and they do what they need. So you mentioned that, Steve, the combat seems a bit floaty, but that's because I think the characters aren't Batman. Batman, he's tall, he's bulky, so he needed to have more weight to him. But all these characters are all either very light and very small, or like Red Hood, they fight more from a distance. So I don't know. I have to play this one. I'm not writing it off, but I'm cautious on it. Again, mostly because I know the story that they're pulling from. Yes, it's not the Parliament of Owls, the Court of Owls. Which again, if you've read the comics, it makes sense in the long run why it's called the Court of Owls. But I won't say anything here just in case people haven't, and I don't want to spoil what may potentially happen in the game. But yeah, the thing that I like that this one is going to offer is it's going to offer full two-player co-op from start to finish. So you could play as Robin and somebody could be Batgirl. You could play as Nightwing and Batgirl, or Red Hood and Robin. However you want to play it. But yeah, I think that's probably the most appealing part for me, is that it will offer the co-op functionality that others haven't, before. But it's interesting that it's basically a Batman game without Batman, and we'll have to see if that translates to. Well, that's the other thing too, is the Arkham series. So the three main Arkham games, so Asylum, City, and Night, were all developed by Rocksteady. Warner Brothers Montreal did Arkham Origins, which was the one where he was facing off against Deathstroke and Black Mask, and then Arkham Origins Blackgate was done by Armature Studios down in Texas, and they did the Vita and the 3DS game. So yeah, Warner Brothers Montreal is the one that did Origins, and they're the folks making this one. So we'll just have to wait and see how long, how it shapes out. I am a little concerned though that this game's been in development for a number of years. Origins is the only game this studio has shipped, and they shipped that back in 2013. So they've been sitting on this for a long time. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see on it. Moving things, to a little closer to home and a little cuter, Cult of the Lamb got a release date. So Cult of the Lamb is a roguelike-ish, action-ish, farming-ish game. I can't really explain it. Yeah, Origins is the weakest, but it's still fine. But Cult of the Lamb is I won't play this because the trailer doesn't actually show anything, it's just an animation. But it is, part survival game, part roguelike dungeon adventuring sort of thing, where you have to raise your little village of, adorable critters. Building up your base of worshippers as you build up your own cult. No, the studio, they did, so WB Games Montreal did help on some Arkham Knight development stuff, but in terms of actual fully releasing games, they haven't actually done anything since Origins, which is very weird. But yeah, Cult of the Lamb, they kept saying it was going to be a late 2022 game, and obviously they were just pulling our legs because the game is set to release on August 11 for all platforms, so Switch, PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. The more fun fact about this one is it is made down in Melbourne, so it is an Australian game. So Devolver Digital are the publisher for this one. Devolver Digital used to be, a very, very niche publisher. They used to do maybe 3, 4, 5 games a year, and there was a period of time between them. Whereas these guys, they tend to publish like one game every 3 weeks. So they're really doing a lot more work, but they're still keeping the same sort of tradition alive. In that they're not publishing anything and everything. They're being very specific about what they do release. So, but this one's done by Massive Monsters down here in Melbourne. So it's a very, very cutesy looking thing, but it's still based around a cult. So there's going to be some interesting elements going on. Now nobody's really played this one, so we'll have to wait and see on it. But the fact that it is coming out in August instead of like October, like most people were expecting, is very, very cool. But I still just love the fact that, Australia as a country loves the lamb, and now we have a game about, slaughtering a lamb, doing the slaughtering, not, the other way around. Moving on to another locally made game, we got the reveal today of a game called The Plucky Squire. Now, The Plucky Squire is interesting because the studio in question, All Possible Futures, was only announced to be in existence yesterday. So this studio popped up out of nowhere saying, hey, we're a studio, we make games, or we're making games. And everyone went, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then, these things happen, and, we tend to hear nothing from them for a while because, they're just starting up. The reason why this one caught the interest of a lot of folks is that one of the co-founders is James Turner. And no, he is in no way related to Will Turner from the Pirates of the Caribbean movie series. James Turner was the art director for Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. It's possible. I mean, we've got there's a few locally made games that do make. I knew what you meant. That do make some chaos out of local Australian animals. Ty the Tasmanian Tiger being another one. But yeah, so with a Plucky Squire, James Turner was the former art director, was the art director for the Pokemon series for a while. So he also was the director of the game called Harmonite on the 3DS. But then he oversaw the design and creation of everything for Pokemon Sword and Shield. So all those designs were him. So yesterday he announced that he'd left Game Freak and had started up a new studio. But it was today that we actually saw the gameplay trailer for the new game. And I will play this one because it is quite interesting. Harmonite was a very solid game.
Once upon a time, there was a
You can see in the design, you can see the James, artwork.
Jot roamed the land in search of adventure, battling beasts, helping the helpless. and generally being very heroic. But then one day he discovered something rather curious. A world he never knew existed.
There you go. So it is coming to Switch, PC, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S next year. But what I find interesting is, so this particular shot here reminds me of Paper Mario. And then the shot where he's fighting the bear, I get Punch Out from it. And then of course when he leaps off the page and goes into the third dimension, I get Super Paper Mario, which is the one on the Wii that went from the 2D to the 3D point of view. It's honestly quite a surreal looking game. Like, how does the character get onto the mug to play around on the mug surface, Or, this is obviously, it's like a shmup sort of style, not a shmup, it's a side-scrolling one, but, it's a bullet hell type of thing, on a container. So it's very, very interesting. But again, like, the big thing is that there was no lead up for this. The studio was announced yesterday, the game was announced today, and everyone kind of just went, wait, hang on, what? But another reason, I should say, that it's very exciting is the studio is actually based in Queensland. So the game is actually being made here in Australia as well. Yeah, I can get some Sackboy adventures with the 3D stuff, especially sort of the realistic looking objects, but the non-realistic looking character. I can definitely get that. There was another game that I played recently coming out, Tinykin. I got to play that earlier in the year. And it's not like this, but it has that same sort of aesthetic where the world itself is all three-dimensional and the character isn't. So there's sort of a very not jarring, but there's a big juxtaposition between the two types of visuals. So the Plucky Squire, it's due out in 2023. Obviously there's no specific release date beyond that, but it's definitely going to be one that I'm going to keep my eye on, not just because of the man behind it, but just because it does look quite a bit interesting, because there's very few games that are like it. Moving on, we've got 2 more games to get through, and then we will talk about the games coming out later, or over the next week, I should say. But the next game, I should say, that we're going to talk about is Goat Simulator 3. So, Goat Simulator 3 was announced today, and I have to point this out because it is just one of the most hilarious things ever. The trailer for it is a clear parody of Dead Island 2. So if you remember the Dead Island 2 debut trailer, there is a bit of music in this one, so I'll mute it. The guy, he was running and he had his headphones in and he just didn't care. He was just running and running and running. And as he was running, people behind him kept starting, getting eaten by the zombies, turning into zombies, and eventually he starts losing muscle mass and, having seizures as he's running because he was actually bitten under his sweatband. So this is definitely a very, it's a near, not shot for shot, but it's a very, familiar pacing of that trailer. So I think it is just the most hilarious of things. And then, of course, the goats come in and start messing things up. What is interesting about this one is this is being published by Coffee Stain Games, or Coffee Stain Publishing, which is owned by the Embracer Group, which also owns Deep Silver, which owns the Dead Island license. So it is, circles within circles within circles for that company. But what is interesting is this is Goat Simulator 3. And if you're thinking, I played Goat Simulator 1, that was great, but I never got a chance to play Goat Simulator 2. That is because there's never been a Goat Simulator 2. The developers decided to go straight from 1 to 3. because why not? What is interesting is that this game is being made exclusively for next gen, so it's PC, Xbox Series X, NES, and PlayStation 5 only. It may come to other platforms down the line, like Goat Simulator 1 did, but they apparently have used some very fancy new tech that they Googled to acquire, so it's going to be focusing purely on the next-gen hardware. I'll be honest, the Goat Simulator game never appealed to me because I tend to just look for a good story in my games, and this one just seemed more like, chaotic fun for the fun of it. Yeah, never a Goat Simulator 2. They went straight from 1 to 3 just to mess with people. Like, in the official press release, it does even state that they knew people would be asking about it, so there you go. That looks a bit like Manhunter, which is also another game from the Embracer Group, via the Deep Silver publishing label. So yeah, it does look interesting. Again, it doesn't appeal to me, but that's because it's not the type of game that I'm something interested in. Obviously, though, the anchor reveal for the Summer Games Fest stream was from PlayStation. But unfortunately, PlayStation leaked it themselves hours before the showcase. But that is that The Last of Us Part 1, what is now known as The Last of Us Part 1, which was originally just The Last of Us, is being remade for PlayStation 5 and PC. So the game is coming out on September 2nd for PlayStation 5. It has been remade completely from the ground up inside the engine that used for The Last of Us Part 2. And is, taking full advantage of the PlayStation 5 console and controller. So, adaptive triggers, haptic feedback. The game will The game will support the same accessibility options that The Last of Us Part 2 had. What is kind of interesting is that they've obviously done a lot with the visuals. So Ellie's design is actually quite a bit different. In the original game, she was because I think she's 10, she was very chubby-cheeked originally, whereas now she looks more like just a younger version or, a smaller version of the Part 2 release. The thing that I'm a little cautious on, so the game's coming to PC as well, but then there's no date for that yet. But what is interesting for me is that this, I think, is the first game that's been remade after it was already remastered. So the game released on the PlayStation 3 was remastered for the PlayStation 4, and the remaster is being remade for the PlayStation 5. And I can't think of any other game that's had that. We've had games that have been remade, and we've had games that have been remastered, but I don't think we've ever had one that was that full pathway of remastered and then remade, or even remade then remastered. Obviously, I'm excluding games that have just been ported from one platform to another and sort of, enhanced or modified as that happens. So this, like, Switch. So, like, Dying Light is a perfect example that released on one platform years ago, or a couple of platforms years ago, and it got ported over to Xbox, Series X and that recently, and it got some enhancements, but it's still the core game. They didn't remake anything of it. They just, added a bit to it. So, yeah, it is interesting, as I said, that, this was the big, anchor to the show. And even if it hadn't have leaked, I don't think it was going to be, jaw-dropping in any way, shape, or form. So Neil Druckmann from Naughty Dog was on stage. They did confirm there is another multiplayer-focused game set within the world of The Last of Us that is coming. So there are some people that were looking for this mode to be added to Part 2 at some point. It seems that the ambition of the developers got away from them, and that grew beyond just a single mode. It is now going to be a fully fledged multiplayer game. They are not releasing any other details on it yet. They did just release a single piece of concept art, which shows the game is set in San Francisco. But that's all they're doing for it. Neil Druckmann did confirm he has another game that he's directing that is in development now at Naughty Dog. So that's all he said for that one. And we also got the first official photograph of Pedro Pascal as Joel from the HBO series, and whoever the person is playing Ellie. And it was revealed that Ashley and Troy, who were Ellie and Joel in the games, also had new roles for them set in the TV show. So definitely a lot of Last of Us news. If you're a fan of the series, that's there. I'll be honest, remaking a game that has already been remastered just seems like a pointless exercise. Like I can't understand why people would do that. If they were just porting across the remastered version to PS5 and enhancing it, sure, I get that. As we've seen it happen quite often, but completely remaking the game makes no sense to me. I did mention, but the stand or the expansion for it, that is the DLC with Ellie before she meets Joel, that is also being remade and included as part of it, so it's a complete package. But yeah, I don't know, it just seems very weird to do it in this particular order. Like, I don't get why that was a decision that needed to be made. Right, moving on, let's take a look at the games coming out over the next 7 days. So obviously today is Friday, June 10th, so we're looking for all the games releasing up till Friday, June 17th. So there are a few. Next week we do have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge releasing on PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. So there are no PS5s. Yes, we're going to have the Lucas effect on the Last of Us. People are going to ignore the game ever released on PS3 at this point. So TMNT next week. There are no PS5 or Xbox Series X specific versions of it. It'll just be the PS4 or Xbox One games running in backwards compatibility mode. So that's on the 16th. The 16th is a bit of a busy day. So Neon White, which is the running card shooting game where you're a devil trying to complete missions in order to escape hell and join heaven. That is releasing on Switch and PC also next week. And then I can't believe this is a thing and it hasn't really sort of popped up anywhere. But Overlord Escape from Nazareth, which is based on the manga and the anime, is releasing next week for PC and Switch. And it's a Metroidvania. So that one there is a bit of a weird one. Also next week on the 16th is Frozenheim, which is a city builder survival game. And then, so that's all of the 16th. That's one day. There's 4 games. And then next Friday we'll see Omori released for for PS4 and Switch. So it's not a big week as opposed to today, where we saw Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, the Hinokami Chronicles, Mario Strikers Battle League Football, and The Quarry all released today. But there's still a big few games next week. Obviously looking further forward, we've got Fall Guys, Sonic Origins, Capcom Fighting Collection, Monster Hunter, and Fire Emblem Warriors, to name a few still to come this month. Obviously with the Xbox Showcase running Monday morning, the Future Game Showcase running on Monday, the PC Game Show on Monday, the Guerrilla Collective on Sunday morning, the Wholesome Direct on Sunday morning, Guerrilla Collective 3.5 on Tuesday morning. There's going to be a lot more games that are going to be announced over the next few days. Release dates should be given for a lot of games as well. So it's going to be a very, 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 very packed schedule of information over the next few days. That being said, we will have stories for almost everything that is announced over the next few days on the site as soon as we can get them up there. There are some times where we just have to wait for assets. We'll have the trailer go up, but we won't have anything else, so we have to wait for those. Beyond that, we will be back on stream next Friday for the next episode of the Maxi-Geek Show. We will not be doing the James Bond stream next Tuesday. We have to give that one a miss. But we'll be back next Friday for another episode of the Maxi-Geek Show. It might be a bumper issue where we go through all the news of the previous week, which is going to be all the showcases. With that said, that brings us to the end of this week's show. No. Overlord Escape from Nazareth is based on the Japanese manga where Ain Zal Ghul is a character who gets trapped in the MMO, and his character is the overlord, the ruler of this giant fortress. So yeah, not the Overlord series that you're thinking of, but yeah. So that brings us, as I said, to the end of this week's show. We'll be back next Friday at 7 p.m. For the next episode. But yeah, until then, do follow along on all social media platforms where we'll be posting all the news as it happens. But until we see you again next week, happy gaming.